Ceri Jones.
Hi, Ceri.
Hello, Melvyn. How are you keeping?
I'm keeping okay, thank you.
Well, thanks for joining me again.
No worries.
Your ears must have been burning. Day before yesterday, I was with good friends of yours, Anne and Andy.
Oh, right. What do they have to say?
They were just visiting friends of, well, family of Anne's, actually, in the Ron there. And they were only about a mile away,
right.
So I met them for a cuppa then.
Jolly good.
Yeah, well, thanks again for coming on. And I've been meaning to get a podcast up after the success of the first one, which went down really well. And there's so many things I want to chat to you about because I can see that you're having a great season.
Well, my season really was in February when I was lucky enough to go down to Tierra del Fuego and fish at Rio Grande. So we had a marvellous 3 weeks down there.
Had you been there before? Was that your first time?
Never. No, it was my first experience down there. It won't be my last. I'm determined to go again.
So what was it like?
What was it like? Well, the fish were big. I broke my sea trout record twice over on my first fish. So that was good. And then on my second fish, I must tell you what happened before that. We were fishing out at two lodges, Aurelia and Cameron. Aurelia Lodge, we got ensconced there and the guides wanted to see our flies and what have you. Anyway, so the second fish in, I hit this big fish. It came out of the water with it and landed back down with a hell of a splash. And he said, 20 pounder. He came running over. Anyway, it jumped a few times and and eventually I managed to get it in. Came into the net, he netted it and said, that's a 20-pound fish, the flies are mine, with his fist up in the air.
Wow.
I said, we better weigh it first. So he weighed it and it was 19 and a half.
That's good enough.
So
wow.
I don't know who was sicker, him or me. Yeah.
Well, I don't think I'd be sick. I'm the 19.5-pound sea trout though.
Yeah, it was a hell of an experience.
I noticed one of the fish in the pictures on social media, it looked like it was in the dark. Do you fish in the dark for them there?
You can in Chile, yeah, but you can't in Argentina. The laws are a lot more relaxed in Argentina than they are, in Chile than they are in Argentina. And you can take fish in Chile, whereas you can't in Argentina. Not that I took any fish.
There's a guy, Nick Warren, I don't know if you come across him. He's a Patreon to the channel. Familiar. Yeah, he's a world-renowned DJ actually, but I had him on to do a podcast a couple of months ago, and he's been fishing it for I think it's about 15 years every year, and he's had numerous up to I think it's 28. So you can see the addiction. Yeah. I can see you probably why you want to go again.
Oh yeah, it wasn't just the fishing; it was the whole experience. You know, we stayed on Cameron Lodge, 200,000 acres if you can get hold of that. And there were 25 people living on it. Just nobody there apart from a few gauchos looking after the sheep.
It seemed more this year, I noticed across social media, but that a lot more people I knew which went. I think everyone went apart from me. You see lots of people go in there.
It doesn't surprise me why they go.
I think it's the sort of place you're going to have to, for most people, it's a trip of a lifetime. It's not cheap, is it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, that's how I looked at it. I remember years and years ago watching one of Paul Young's Hooked on Fishing programs. And I thought, I've really got to go there. And he got one of that 22 pound. And I thought, I've really got to do that. Marvelous.
Well, the last time we actually met was on the banks of Lough Corrib.
It was.
Back in, I think it was the first week of June, wasn't it? Or the last week of May.
No, no, no. I couldn't do the whole of May in Ireland this year. My father passed away at the beginning of May,
I
so I had
remember.
all that to sort out before I could get off. So yeah, it was probably this. Might have even been the third week in May, Ceri.
Because I know I didn't see you after you went out and we came in back at different times and that. But I
Yeah.
was there for 2 days. It wasn't easy. How did you manage?
No, it wasn't easy at all. The first day I blanked. I didn't get any fish at all. I had plenty of follows, but nothing actually would get hold. Then I went out the following day, and I had four, if not five. But I realised where I was going wrong. Usually, when I'm fishing, I throw quite a short line, really, and five pulls, lift onto the bob, and then sort of bring it back to the boat, the bob fly back to the boat, making a V in the water, and then immediately roll casting out.
Yeah.
Now, I was getting fish to follow my bob fly, but they wouldn't get hold of it. So what I did on the second day is cast out, five pulls, and then lifted the bob fly to the surface and held it there at the surface. And after about a second, they took it.
Did they take the bob fly or was it the one below?
No, they took the bob fly. As soon as I stopped, hung it there, and then bang, they were at it. Yeah.
Where else did you fish during your trip?
I fished Melvyn and I fished Sheelin, and I should have fished Con, but I had a problem with the motorhome and I had to get that sorted.
Oh.
So I didn't get to fish Con.
Yeah.
But I had a marvellous time on Sheelin.
I don't know how. I did see, that's one of the reasons I wanted to chat to you, actually. Because I was fishing with, just after your trip, well, I think it must have been a week or two after, I shared a boat with Kevin Sheridan.
Yes.
And he said, have you heard of the Melvyn method, he said. And
Yeah.
he told me about your big fish. It was a double, wasn't it?
It was.
So what was the story behind that then? You had a couple of days there, yeah?
I had probably 4 days in total there. Yeah, I had a day with Dominic Kerrigan as well.
All right.
Which was quite fruitful. I had a 10, a 7, a 4, and a 2.
And all on the Melvyn method?
All on the Melvyn method. So you want to know about the Melvyn method?
Well, actually, you did tell me, and Kevin did on the day, like, you know, when I fished with him.
Right.
But okay. it's quite something, because all the last couple of seasons, nymph fishing is big out there, isn't it? It's like, it's probably been fishing. There are certain people who've been doing it for years, but
yes.
For one reason or other, the last 2 seasons especially, everyone is fishing the mayfly nymph, and I can see why, because probably for every fish we see come up for a dry mayfly, there's probably 50 below taking nymphs.
Absolutely.
And I think the tactic is having confidence in doing what the certain method. And most people are fishing floating line, maybe a sink tip, midge tip. But you did something totally different, didn't you? You were a dive 5, is it?
Well, I was talking to you about this on the last podcast we did.
Yeah.
In the fishing in Ireland is changing. You know, all you needed was a floating line 20 years ago. Well, that's not the case now. The fish don't seem to be as free rising as they were. I mean, there are times that they're free rising, but it's very, very rare that they are. Now, when we were on Sheelin this time, there were a lot of straight lining nymphs, as though they were buzzers, like fishing a buzzer.
Yeah.
Which is very popular on Corrib and Mask and other places. And most of the guys, well, I'm saying most of the guys, all of the guys who were fishing nymphs were fishing straight line and catching not much. There was the odd fella doing very well, but the majority of the men weren't. So I thought, well, really, it needs a bit of a different approach. So I went to my usual tactic of fishing booby on the point on a dye line, depending on the line weight, depending on how deep I was fishing over.
Yeah.
Booby on the point and 3 nymphs behind it. And if I weren't touching bottom, I wasn't in the right place. And all the fish were on the bottom, and all the fish came to the same fly, which was quite amazing. So yeah.
So you're fishing the washing line in effect.
It was a washing line.
On a sinking line. So you had 3 nymphs fishing.
3 nymphs and booby on the point.
But what I was fascinated with, the idea of, you're casting a long line, you're leaving it going right down.
Depending on how deep you were.
Yeah. But the takes, apparently, because when I did fish with Kevin, he was using this method, and he actually missed a couple, and he didn't actually hook any. Yeah. But when I was watching him, the line was vertical, and the tip would just go down, and he actually missed them. So I guess because it's to do with the nymph coming to the surface then, and I guess really the natural, it comes straight up, doesn't it? So that's what you're doing.
Yeah, it swims straight up. My fish took me right on the bottom. It wasn't on the lift when I was getting them. It was actually right on the bottom.
Oh.
And you certainly knew when you got a bite because it ripped your hand out. It's a proper hard bite. You wanted £10 nylon out. I said, smash it.
How did it fight? Did you know you had a good fish straight away?
Oh, yeah. Kevin sent me a video of it. Yeah, we knew. Yeah. Like I just turned to Kevin when I felt the fish. I said, Kevin, we're going to be here for some time.
We're going to need a bigger boat. Yeah.
But all due credit to Kevin. He put me over the fish. He knew where the fish were. Yeah.
Yeah, we went straight there. We had 2 days. You went to the same place, and we did have fish. But I learned a lesson on my trip there. That was the first proper time back on Sheelin in a long, long time. And I learned not to mess around with leader. You just want to go big. Because I got broke 3 times or 4 times in the 2 days I was there. So that in the end, I was just using...
so many stories of that fish lost.
Yeah.
How snapped and what have you. Yeah, you need heavy leader. Yeah, without a doubt. And strong hooks.
Yeah.
I tie all my flies on Camasan hooks.
All right,
Purely because I've got that much faith in it. It was grand. So to get that 10-pounder in, it was unbelievable. Second biggest fish I've had in now.
Yeah. Where was the last one you had? I remember a few years ago.
I had a 12.5 pounder off Corrib in April 2007. Yeah, that was a beast.
Yeah, I remember you talking about that one in the last podcast. When you're fishing these nymphs, I guess they tied on those B200s, the patterns you got.
B800s, size 8 and size 10s.
All right, a big fly then.
Big fly. They didn't want short tails on the nymphs, and they didn't want beards on the nymphs either. Just a thorax and an abdomen and a tail, and that was it. Put a pearl rib in it, because most of the time we were fishing it were quite bright, and I like a bit of pearl on my flies when it's bright. Not that I see much down at sort of 20 feet, but yeah, it helps to get down to where those fish were. You need a long leader.
Yeah. Well, I know you go over every May. Will you go over at the end of the season as well, September?
Probably not. I've never done it. I really ought to do it. I've got a lot on at the end of the season. From now till the end of September, it's usually fishing Malham Tarn. Have
you fished it this year yet?
Malham, yeah, I fished it twice. The fishing at Malham's been hard this year. They've not had the weather. May, it was cold. May and June were cold and wet, and not good up there. Because you're 1,000 foot up, doesn't help. July, it's been hot, very little wind. Yeah, but I've had 2 decent fish. I've had a 7-pounder and I've had a 5-pounder. So yeah, 5-pounder on a dry last week, which was good.
They are wild fish as well, again, aren't they?
They are, yes. Stocked at one point. It was stocked up until about 20 years ago. National Trust took over the Malham estate.
Have you tried that method, which we just spoke of now, on Malham Tarn?
I tried it last week because the conditions were good last week. There was very little wind. But the problem with Malham Tarn is it's not deep. You know, you're talking 12-foot maximum, awful lot of weed on the bottom.
Yeah.
So you're forever getting caught up in the weed. I tried it with a floating line and 2 boobies and 2 nymphs in between just to hold them up and got nothing. I spent 2 hours on that method and then decided to go on to dries. I was on the dries and then I caught 5-pounder.
The thing with browns, I think, more than rainbows, you're reliant a lot more on the conditions. And when the sun's out, you're fishing with your hand behind your back almost to start with.
Yeah.
Going back to your fishing in Ireland before we move on.
Yeah.
How did it? I know you got a passion for it, as I have, and you're going over there for weeks at a time. Yeah. How did it start?
Well, I was invited on a trip, probably the early 2000s, to Corrib, Lough Corrib. I was sat in a boat and I thought, my God, you know, this is just what I want to do. It's a beautiful place. We were catching some not very big fish, but nevertheless, they were nice fish. And I was catching them on a method that I love to catch fish on, which is wet fly, fishing a wet fly. And I thought, this is what I want to do. So I gave up competition fishing and then started concentrating on wild fishing. And I was lucky enough to get in with a group of guys, which I call friends now, that used to fish all over the place. They fish Ireland, Scotland, the Western Isles, Orkney, and all over. And they took me with them. I just loved it. You know, being in a beautiful place, fishing with friends, catching some lovely wild fish, and Ireland gives me that.
I guess Malham on your doorstep is the closest you're going to get to that as well, isn't it?
It is. Very much so. Yeah.
How will that fish towards from now on to the end of the season, Malham?
It should fish okay. It all depends on how warm the water gets and how much algae appears in the water. We had an instant prior to lockdown where we had a fish kill because of the blue-green algae in the water and the oxygen demand just plummeted. So we had a fish kill. It's not fished well this year because of the fluctuations in sort of weather. From being really cold when it should have been fishing really well to being bright and sunny now and the water warming up and the fish don't really want to know. We have I'm part of the group called Friends of Malham Tarn, which run the fishing now on Malham, and we have a guy with us called Professor Johnny Gray, and he does all the catch statistics, and they are quite well down from what they were last year. I think that's probably due to weather. Some may say it's maybe fish pressure. But, you know, there's a lot of study being done around what's being caught, when they caught, water temperatures, etc. We can find out what's going on and how well we can utilise that water as a fishing group and how many people we can have on without it affecting the fish.
Yeah. Like the local water to me is called Talabont Reservoir. And you can guarantee it's wild browns. You can guarantee July and August, you're totally wasting your time going there. This is like there's a switch off and they go off. You do catch a couple late on after dark. Yeah. But, you know, I went up this week and half the lake was green with algae. It's almost like someone's poured a lot of paint in it. So I won't bother them until September.
It's not like that up at Malham yet. It may, depending on what temperature it gets at, it may come. Yeah. But fingers crossed it won't. Yeah. It's only on the rare occasions that it does go like that.
So the local water zones here, I'll probably give it a go in September. Say September, because tomorrow I'm going back out to Ireland.
Oh, very nice.
I'm going to go out for another month at the usual places, but I'm also going to go down to Cork and Ceri as well. Right. And I was talking to Colin Dodd. I did plan to go back up to Arrow.
Yes.
But I seen across social media that it's closed. temporary closed because the Ballysadare system is shut. And it's interesting because I didn't know the reason, and he was saying that it's because of the salmon fatalities in the system. They were just doing tests for virus and disease, and they found nothing, and they put it down to stress. So hopefully that will be open now soon. So maybe we'll get a day or two up there as well.
And it won't have had any angling pressure, so you may have a good time. Not that there's that many boats fish Arrow during the season rather than May.
No,
May there's can be quite a few anglers on, but the rest of the time it's quite lightly fished.
Well, the season's running away with us, isn't it? I can't believe now. Really speaking, you only got August and September left now.
That's it.
What's your plans the rest of the season?
Well, it'll be fish. It'll be fishing Malham. That'll be it. I've got a couple of fly tying shows to do.
I noticed you do practically, I think, all the shows. I've seen you've done many already this year. What's left to come up?
The next one will be Penistone Show, and then after Penistone Show, Chatsworth County Angling Fair, which is a great show. The Irish Fly Fair. Then the week after the Irish Fly Fair, we fly out to Belgium to do the Belgium fly happening, and then it'll be BFFI in February, which I've just had me invite to, because I missed it last year because I was in Tierra del Fuego. So that'll be grand to do that again. I enjoy that show.
Yeah, it was a good show. I didn't go last year, actually, or this year in effect, but next year then I'll be there. I thought
I saw you the year before.
Yeah, I thought you might have been up in the game fair this week. Up in Blenheim Palace.
I've never done the game fair.
No?
Never done the game fair, no. Usually the southern lads that get to do that one, it's Fly Dressers Guild that do that. Not that I'm not a member of the Fly Dressers Guild, but they organise it, whereas we get the sort of Chatsworth game show, which I'm not too unhappy about.
I understand you were seeing Anne tonight, and Andy?
Yeah, we're going out tonight. We're having a meal at an Argentinian restaurant. So
it'll be steaks all round tonight then?
Well, I don't know. I'm fishing Malham tomorrow, so I need to be up bright and early.
Well, many thanks for joining me, Melvyn, and hope if we don't see you before, I'll catch you on the lake in Ireland again.
That'll be grand, Ceri. Thank you.
Take care now. Cheers. Bye now. If you've enjoyed this podcast and want to listen to more, please consider becoming a Patreon, where you'll get weekly podcasts and access to over 170 episodes, behind-the-scenes photography to go with each episode, plus other exclusive content and prizes. To become a Patreon, visit patreon.com/casting with Ceri Jones, or you can find the link on my website, castingwithcerijones.com. That's all for now. Tight lines, and may they always be up in the wave.